Hey, everybody. Hello. Hey, Sherry. Hey.
Hello, hello.
All right. Making y'all co-hosts out here. Yeah. Happy almost Friday, guys. All right. So we'll start in about 6 minutes or so. So feel free to just go and grab some coffee or something. Um, same old like last time. In fact, that's my tea kettle. All right. I'll be right back, guys. Hey, Sonny. Basically, it's good to see you, man.
Great to see you as well.
Yeah, man, if you want to just say hi to the students, also tell them like, what you've been up to. Also, a lot of people joke like you're one of the shining stars of like the Air Force alumni out here. So if you want to talk about what you did in there, feel free to.
Sure. If it would help you guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry, I've been meaning to come back and visit. I will at some point.
No worries. I know it's busy out there.
Mhm. How's the new cohort?
Oh, they're great. We're about to get into React next week and frameworks and
Mhm,
stuff, but
mhm.
first couple of weeks, it's gonna be cool. But they're doing great. So everybody, before we start, just want to introduce one of the alums from the last cohort. His name is Sunny. He actually went to the Air Force. You're a part-time EMT, right? As well?
I'm a paramedic now,
Oh,
yes.
paramedic. Oh, congrats, man. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
basically paramedic as well as web developer, software developer extraordinaire, made a project for the Air Force that they're actually like trying to scale up, right?
I believe so. So we were working on giving it to the Department of Defense, and they were reviewing our code to use in one of their portable electronic devices. Um,
Kudos,
And
man.
so
That's amazing.
so thank you, thank you. The premise of our project last year was, um I'm sorry, is everyone here already? I don't
Yeah,
wanna presume.
everybody's here. It's
Okay, okay.
the people that trickle in, they're late. They don't get to enjoy your your dope experience here.
Well, thank you for having it's good to see everyone. Uh, yeah, my name is Sunny. I was a part of last year's TTPR cohort. I was with Lewis, actually. Um, I ended up going to the Air Force. My project was to research the applications of machine learning in healthcare triage, specifically battlefield triage. And so we were able to develop a system to predict the risk of sepsis and um, determine who need to be triaged first. Because if you're in an adverse environment, you only have one medic, you have multiple patients. Sometimes it's easy to miss things, and so having a computer algorithm to help with that in your cardiac monitor um, has a huge potential. It was an amazing experience. It, I got to work with a lot of amazing people. Um, had a lot of people from LaGuardia as well go with me, and so I formed a great deal of friendships. I heavily recommend that opportunity. I believe they're accepting more students again this year. So if you have that chance, I would totally recommend it. It will open so many doors for you. Now I'm working with Louis at Agentic Health. It's a healthcare startup where we're focused on kind of making an AI native platform. And so I think a lot of my work with the Air Force helped me get me into where I am now. Um, yeah, and I owe it all to Hasasio as well because he taught me the basics of web development.
I appreciate that, Sonny. But it was also your skills and like the TAs as well were amazing as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's you're a gifted student too. So rest
Thank you.
assured it was you as well, man.
Mm, thank
Does
you.
anyone have any questions for Sonny? No pressure out here. All right, I guess everyone's asleep. But
No problem, no
But
problem.
yeah, thanks, Sonny.
No, no
And
problem.
feel free to always stop by on a Saturday or whatever.
Mhm.
You're always welcome. Yeah,
Thank you, thank you.
yeah,
I
of
will be
course,
back to visit. Yeah, thank you for the impromptu introduction.
of
Hopefully
course,
that was
man.
helpful.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Thanks, Sonny.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Mhm. No.
Tag Lewis back in. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So again, really cool. One of the cool things I always mention about the cohort is like you'll make lifelong friendships as well. Luis, Sonny, and Tao, which were all peeps that worked on the same project together, I believe. They all kind of they're all working after the cohort together. So it's this kind of really cool thing where you have you make friends for life. One of the funny things is what all right, I'm sorry, I just saw Jackie Wu's screensaver over there. That's pretty hilarious. But basically, um one of the from my cohort, basically, my cohort was damn near like 10 years ago at this point, and I'm still friends with all of my like the classmates and stuff like
you heard it
that.
now?
So basically, yeah, like the last cohort was filled with like some of my old friends from the boot camp that I went to. So, again, this is part of the reason why I kind of force y'all to work in groups and stuff like that. You never know who's gonna be like the lifelong co-founder, friend, person you'll be working with, so on and so forth. So make sure to always kind of keep that in mind. And yeah. Okay, so today we're gonna do a couple of things. We'll finish off event handlers and stuff like that um, for basically our lesson on JavaScript, the DOM manipulation, stuff like that. Afterwards, I'm gonna break y'all into groups. We're gonna do a couple more of labs. Basically, make up the labs that you haven't done that I signed earlier this week, as well as there are actually three new labs that you all will have. So basically, that would be the next thing y'all will do. And yeah, uh, hopefully get y'all out at a reasonable time. Who knows, even 5 minutes early or something like that. So that will be the vibe. On Saturday, what we're going to try to do is you're going to take everything you really learned together. You can work in groups and stuff like that, and the idea is that you make a little portfolio page about yourself based off of like all the incorporating like all of the concepts you kind of learned from the past like couple of weeks here at the boot camp. Basically, yeah, it's gonna be the information that you filled out from Geraldina's form, like try to like pimp that out into a cool little front end website to kind of make yourself shine when employers and stuff like that are looking at your portfolio. Okay. So without further ado, just make sure we get us back to the area where we were before. So I don't spoil anything out here. Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll do the lecture first, and afterwards we'll break y'all into groups to do the labs. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, y'all can see my screen okay, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I was like, yo, where was that when Sonny was like, any questions? But yeah, Sonny's cool peeps. Basically, let's kind of do a little anime recap. So previously on the last exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z, we actually went over the DOM, why it's important, DOM manipulation, kind of how we can navigate the structure of a DOM, how it's broken down, how our HTML is kind of perceived in this digital representation on our browser, why it's important to kind of utilize like grabbing elements based off of like their selector, searching the DOM. So something that is a little interesting is, hey, when you think about the web, and websites, it kind of feels like this conversation you're having. You say something or you do something on the page responds another way, so on and so forth. So how do we handle that? How, like, from everything you've learned so far, you've kind of understand JavaScript moves the page, you understand that like you can control the websites with certain actions, but how does that really translate into your JavaScript um to the website? So long story short, event handlers, as you can see, JavaScript everywhere. Basically the idea is event handlers are really everywhere on your website, on websites that are in production, on websites in the world. And this is kind of how we control our website based off of user interactions. This is part of the reason why we went so deeply into this concept of callbacks and how callbacks are kind of these higher order functions that will you pass a function into another function. That other function can be based off of user event handling. So an event that happens on the browser. So let's kind of go into that a little bit. So what is an event? An event is basically a callback that gets fired from something that happens on the DOM. So the idea behind that is, hey, when you click a button, let's see if I have an example here. When you click a button, that's an event. When you hover over something, let's go back here, and something happens. As you can see, it zooms in a little bit. That's an event. When you scroll, honestly, that's an event. Hold on. I do have an example of scrolling being an event here. Shameless plug. My browser works. Apparently my browser don't even want to show this example. When you scroll, that's an event. And from that, you can kind of do all of these interesting things in JavaScript land based off of that, based off of these events. So when we attach an event handler to an element, we can kind of specify the user event and actually have a callback based off of that fired event. Something cool happens when a user clicks a button. Something cool happens when you scroll a page. Something cool happens when you hover over something. These are all events, and the callbacks that we learned earlier, can we pass in functions to kind of say, hey, do something when this event happens. So how does this really break down? We have listeners for events, and this is kind of the native JS way of handling it. When we go into more complex frameworks, we'll see that like this is handled in different ways. But what I want y'all to really understand is whether you're using React, Next.js, hell, if you're still using jQuery, I won't hate. Honestly, 80% of the web apparently still is jQuery. but like under the hood, all of it is really native JS doing these things in an easier fashion. So let's learn the native way of doing it, speak, like learn Spanish so you can understand bullet fast Bronx Spanish. So the idea is this is really what's happening under the hood. So if you remember, we actually can grab an element from the DOM by calling this document, which is, remember, the whole window to the DOM dot get element by ID. We pass in like what that ID is. So basically here, my ID is probably something that identifies a button on the page. And then we add an event listener. We have a function that we can call on a DOM element called addEventListener. And what this does is it basically attaches this callback to this DOM element. And basically, we sit there and we wait. And we sit there and wait for a specific event that we will specify within this addEventListener. So when you take a look at this over here, our first identifier here is click. So our event type is going to be click for this example. And then we have a little comma here that then points to the function, our callback function, which basically is that thing that happens when that event is triggered. So this first little example line here, we're actually saying, hey, when someone clicks on my ID, like if there's a somewhere in the page, there's a my ID like tagged element on our HTML page. We have this function where it basically says, yo, we're gonna call alert. Alert is kind of like this really loud, well, it's not loud, but it's loud in all the other ways of not having sound. It's just kind of blaring. It kind of takes focus away from the page, all of that stuff. So we'll actually alert saying, hey, I'm clicked. And that's our callback function. So when we create an event listener, we have two arguments that we have to pass in. The first is the event, and the second is the anonymous function that fires when that event type occurs. So the idea is we actually have a couple of events that we can listen in on. So the idea is we have hover, we have key up, we have key down, we have mouse over, we have scroll, we have click. There's a lot of other events that are also around in the web to actually listen in on, but these are kind of like the bread and butter of event listeners types. So again, I think I kind of mentioned this with the GitLab. There's like, hey, if you know these 4 or 5 commands, that's 80% of what you're really going to be like, you really need to know, or you're going to be really using when you're using Git. This is kind of the same, where basically 80% of what you're really going to be doing with event listeners is going to be based off of these event types. So click is your bread and butter. That's your rice and beans, if we're going back to the Bronx analogies here. Click is basically the most, you're more than likely going to be using click all the time. Then hover, that's another one. Key up, key down, mouse over, and scroll. So again, these are your event listeners. So let's say if we go to hezvasio.com, an example of event listener here is when you click on this button here, it'll actually scroll down to a section of the page called projects. There's an event listener. It's telling the callback function is scroll to a particular section that I have specified in my function. That's the callback function. Again, hover, if we go to our little Horizon World. No. No. We hover over something here, like Super Boxing Gym. It gets a little bigger to give you a little focus there. That could be done via JavaScript. It can also be done via CSS, but let's say it's actually being used for it like JavaScript. It's, we're using JavaScript for this. So basically we make it a little bigger based off of just hovering over an element. So event listeners, that's basically how we have that organic kind of conversation with our website. That's how we kind of make our website feel alive based off of our JavaScript, like the logic that we write via our JavaScript. And this is how we kind of have our callbacks basically wait to hear if like a event is fired, if a user does something, do something with the page. Okay, so HTML forms. So one of the things that we will have event listeners really on a lot is our form HTML element. If we remember from the HTML lab, one of the elements we have are forms, and a lot of times our forms have like our login, sign up, address forms, all the things you kind of see on the web here. So inside of a form, we have several elements like text input boxes, drop down, radio buttons, check boxes, etc. So if we take a look at an example structure of a form here, we can see that basically we have um, the ability to kind of like use our JavaScript that we've learned so far right now to actually grab the data based on a event listener of like a submission. So if we take a look at this structure here, we have like this form. There's it goes to this path called process. There's a method called post. The idea is like what we're doing is that we're actually going to be posting all of the information to like a part of like our back end or like another page. It's going to be slash process in this manner here for action. And what we have here, and this is kind of like how you'd want to set up your forms whenever you are making forms, is you'll have like something to specify what the user has to put in, and then we have an input for the user to put that information in. Label for something like, hey, what else do I want you to put in for this other input box, which is, password. We have the input that actually like will, where the user would type in their password. You also have this input type of submit, and this kind of translates to a button. You can also have a button if you want over input there, but again, this input type is actually like how you would submit this form. Again, don't worry about the actions and methods for now. We don't worry about that, but like, about submitting your form just yet. We just want to kind of get inputs from this. So how do we get these inputs? Very similar to traversing the DOM like we've done in the past. Let's say if we have some sample, a sample like form here where we have this input, name of username, ID of username. What we can do is actually say, hey, get element by ID based off of our document, our DOM, the window to our DOM. We grab the element here by basically specifying which ID we're looking for, username. As you can see, the username's right here. And you could just call dot value on that. That will give us the value from that field, and then we can do whatever we want with that. Here's a cool example I was trying to spin up really for you guys really quickly. I hope this will help. All right, so. All right, here I have my little code pen page here. It's a very busted up form. As you can see, we have our little check boxes. We have our radio buttons. We have our drop downs, comments. We have like the option for an email. Sign me up. So let's say hypothetically, what I want to do is kind of show you an example of grabbing something from a particular HTML element. Again, we're not going to do a submission right now. Don't worry about that. But what I want to do is show you, let's say email here. So instead of having a label, we have like a little H4 here that says email, gives us a little bold one here. If you see, I say, yeah, yo, put yo email here. Save that. You'll actually see we've changed our HTML to be like, yo, put your email in here. All right, so just because we're gonna bypass actually submitting the form, we can actually add a value, which is like a placeholder in here, and then we can change it up any way we want. But we can have a placeholder here in our value. So I'm gonna just say like Vasio is our value there, is vasio.com. I should set that up to actually have my email that too one day, but I'm lazy. But if we take a look here, our input box is hesvasio.com. So let's say I wanted to grab that value there. We can do something very similar to what we've just seen in the slides here. So what I'm going to do is grab my element by ID and then grab the value. So if you take a look at our console here, you'll see this kind of update based off of what I write here. So let's do document dot get element by ID. What be that ID? Now let's take a look. The ID that I want is email, which is right here on line 37. Bam. So I got this element by ID, and what I want to do is just get the value. So got this going here, but here's the thing. I'm not telling it to do anything with that just yet. So it's just not doing anything. So what I'm going to do is wrap this in parentheses there, and then we'll do our log that our JavaScript log, which is console.log. And let's see if I did this right. Console.log, bam. And if we take a look here, clear that up, save that again, refresh this. Just add a little, yeah. As you can see here, it says hesvasio.com because we grabbed our document from, we in our document, our DOM, we got the element by ID. The ID was email, and we were like, yo, what's your value? And if you really, when you really take a look at it here, all the way down here, value was hesvasio.com. We traversed the DOM. We grabbed the element that was email right there. And then we grabbed the value of that. And then we kind of said, hey, log it to our console here, as you can see. And you want, as you can see, bam, like this form is very similar to what we've just kind of played around with. And these were all things that I kind of showed y'all on Saturday with HTML elements, where it's like, hey, there is a drop down, there's radio buttons, there are check boxes, all these things that can be passed in once we submit this form. Okay. Imagine a form with H1 tag, and we're trying to grab this title, but we want to kind of like change the title based off of like the data we've received. So let's kind of play around with this way. So let's get the title of the form. So, if we were to try and get the title of the form based off of what we just did, what would someone get up, come off of mute, wake up, guys, shake off the sleepies. How would we grab this title here, which is enter your information based off of what we just did from that small example there? I can wait. I'll just keep drinking my tea. Feel free to answer. Anybody? Does anybody, do y'all understand the question that I'm asking? That's a better first question.
I feel like I understand, but like maybe we say it a different way.
Oh yeah, sure. So based off of what we did in this previous example here, where we actually grabbed an element by a ID, let's say we wanted to get the title of this form here, which is first H1 ID of title, and we have like this element here. How would we do that? Very similar to what we did with that example in the past, like just that little code pen example where I grabbed the element by ID to actually like show you the value.
You use
Wouldn't
the
you
ID
just call
title
back
because
the
that's single
title
sign.
or the ID?
Oh, sorry, say again.
Wouldn't you just call back the ID title and then it's going to display enter your information?
Well, yeah. You have I think you're going a little bit ahead first, so don't like let's actually start with this first. So as you can see, the basically the answer I'm giving you is already on the page here, but like I'm like, hey, how would you get this H1 element here? You would probably do something like this over here.
Document.get element by ID with the title in the parentheses.
That's it. Bob's your uncle. So yeah, the idea is if you want to get the title of this form here, like I'm gonna, we like this element here, I'll show you like this is us changing the form, but if we wanted to grab the actual title of the form, we'll do it kind of like this, where we, as you can see at the bottom here, we grab the document get title, get element by ID with the title. We can save it to a variable. But yeah, you would reference it that way. So this would actually equate to the HTML element here, which is H1 ID of title, enter your information. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say we want to do something like change the value of this. First things first, I want to show you that what's kind of interesting is you get the whole HTML element from this heading here, but you can call methods on that. So again, heading, which is this whole H1 here, basically you can call inner text on that. And basically the inner text will actually be enter your information, because that is the inner text that's in this H1 here. So basically you got the title DOM element and you're asking, hey, what's the inner text in there? And equates to enter your information. Now, let's say we have and hold on, let me see well, I'll give y'all I'll actually try to show y'all an example later, like right afterwards. But basically, let's say we have this variable. We would change this var to a let or a const, but we have this variable name of Zach here. And we have this variable just sitting there. What we can kind of do, which is cool, is we can change the text in the DOM by basically saying, hey, our heading, which is this H1 here, dot inner text equals a concatenated, this is called a concatenated string, but basically we kind of set up our string to say enter Zach's information. So when we look at this inner text again, it'll say enter Zach's information over enter your information, because we can actually manipulate the DOM very much like what we've talked about before by actually calling things like get inner text. So let me show you a little example here. Go back to this guy here. And I am going to actually create, this is what we would probably want to do here. So I'm going to actually create on our H2 here, I'm going to create a ID of title. That looks like our title, sign up. So we have our H2 of title here. Based off of that little example that we just seen, what should I do first to actually get this HTML element of an H2 here called title? Anyone can answer.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Oh yeah, sure. So basically I want to get this H2 element that's on line 3 over here.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of what we just did, the example here, what we've just learned, how would I grab that?
Use
Get element by
get
ID.
Yeah. So first, we need to put something before the get element ID. What is that?
Document dot get element by ID.
console.log.
Okay, so let's do that real quick. Document dot get element by ID. And what's the ID we're going to be trying to grab here?
Title.
Title. All right. So here's the question. What should we do? So we got this right now, but we're not saving it anywhere. What should we do next?
Right, you gotta assign it to a variable.
Yeah, assign it to a variable. So let's say heading is going to be equal to our document get element by ID, which is our title here. So get that out of here. Bam. Now I'm going to let's create another variable called name. So I'm going to say let name equal all right, I'm just gonna put my name. Actually, I was trying to come up, well, Goku. There we go. So we'll stick with the Dragon Ball references out here. All right, so name is Goku. So if I want to change the title in this heading here, how would I do that? Based off of what we just learned here.
Use inner text.
That sounds like a good idea. Let's try that out. So heading dot. And remember the structure here. So it's camel case. So lower inner capitalized text. inner text equals, what do we want to say here? Maybe like sign up space plus, what should we put next?
Name.
It's a good idea. And if you look at the page here, I don't know if y'all can see the full page, like, but it's a little cut off for me, but there it is. That's a little better. It'll say, as you can see, sign up Goku. I don't think Goku has done a piece of paperwork in his life. Lucky guy. But basically, as you can see, we can set our inner HTML, but we can also, if we wrap this around with a console.log, I want to actually see how the text looks before we change it. So let's actually, well, I actually want to show y'all what this heading looks like first. So I'm going to actually console.log heading. So if you see, on line 4 here, oh, well, let's do line 5 just so you get a little bit of space. But on line 5 here, we actually get the whole HTML element. So that's part of the reason why we have to call this other function on it called innerText. And then if you see that, it'll actually say sign up. And then afterwards, so after line 5, we've logged what the heading was before. And then on line 7, we actually changed the inner text to sign up name, which is sign up Goku. Does that make sense? What's unclear, I guess? That's my better question. Is there anything that feels wrong, weird, cries of outrage on what we just did here?
Not really.
Okay. Good, because there's a quiz at the end.
Oh, I got a question.
Yeah, sure. Then
So, wait, can you go back, please?
yeah.
So the console.log, it prints out the line go sign up Goku, right?
Yeah, so console.log prints it out to our console. So we won't see it on our HTML page or anything like that, but we'll get to see it in our console here. So we can kind of log whatever we want to see that we don't really want to see on the browser.
But heading.innerText is on the next line, not before the console.log.
Oh,
So
so are you talking about on line 7 or line 8 or line 9?
yeah, like usually it's I think it's other programming language, it's the reverse, right? You can't do that. Like what I'm saying is.
Are you saying you can't change?
So you uh how do I say? So in line 9, it makes the line sign up Goku, right?
Yeah, it
And
changes
in
the inner
7 it prints, right?
in line 7 it prints. It prints
So
it before we change it.
yeah, so you can do that. Like
In JavaScript, you can do that. So here's the thing, you can log it. Because remember, I think what you're thinking of is this concept of maybe hoisting where things happen and like things happen and then the execution, you lose track of it. But remember, in JavaScript, we read it line by line unless we call functions different ways, and that's when things are hoisted up to the top. Like when we call function, my function, yada yada yada, that goes to the top. So basically, that will actually be when the JavaScript engine interprets all of our JS code, it'll actually move, the function will move to the top. But everything that we're doing here is line by line in sequence. So as you can see, we console log our value here of email. That's all the way at the bottom. Our value is hesvasio.com. If we then afterwards on line 3, we actually grab the HTML element of sign up here. And then we create a variable here called Goku. Then we console log our inner text of this sign up before we change it, and then we change it. So here's the interesting thing. If we move this console log down after we finish our little text change, our console log is going to say sign me up Goku because we already changed the inner HTML text. So JavaScript runs line by line in sequence, unless there's some things like hoisting or other pieces like that. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I know in other languages, there might be it might be handled differently, but remember, JavaScript is kind of like it's not multi-threaded. It's basically one thing at a time. We have to use callbacks to kind of simulate this idea of it being basically like running parallel processes and stuff like that. But under the hood, it's basically doing one thing at a time. We ask the console log, that goes to the call stack, that happens first. Basically, we assign a variable that goes to the call stack, that happens next. We make another variable that goes to the call stack, happens next. We change our inner text, that's next in our call stack. We log it out, that's next in our call stack. Good question, though. So remember, JavaScript behaves different than other languages. Some of the reasons why you fight with it, but there's also, it's one of the reasons why it's a base, it feels like a more basic language to kind of just use on the web. Again, if you're used to like these other languages like C++ or Java or languages like that, once you kind of get a bearing of JavaScript, the industry is moving a little bit more towards languages like TypeScript, which are just basically like built upon JavaScript, but it feels more like maybe the languages that you're used to. But long story short, JavaScript's running this in sequence out here. Okay, so now let's say that HTML that lives inside of the div there. We want to change the inner HTML. So remember what we did before was we actually like got the inner text, but not the whole HTML element. Let's say we actually wanted to change the whole HTML element. What we would actually do here is run another command called innerHTML. So if we look at this example here, we got this whole like div with an ID of main section. It has basically this h1 here where it says like hello world. We run this line here where it says, hey, get element by ID, main section, so we're grabbing this whole div. We call inner HTML, which is different from inner text. In inner text, we would be grabbing hello world. With inner HTML, we're actually going to grab h1 hello world with hello world in there. And what's cool is you can actually change it. So you can say, hey, inner HTML is now h3 hello world smaller. And what would happen next is we'd actually basically get that same parent structure of a class of main section there, but basically we would it would be changed to that h3 smaller text there. So let's actually try to do a small example here. What I want to do is I'm going to wrap. I have a div here. Call it, and we'll give it an ID. DI. ID. Uphold that. So it's like, hold that for me real quick. And then I want to close it because we need to close our div tags or we're not sharing valid HTML there, div. So we have our little div here that holds our H2 right there. So what I actually want to do is we're gonna comment, we're gonna remove this so it's a little less confusing. Bam, get that out of here. And what I want to do is actually let's play around with grabbing the inner HTML that's on line 3 here. So based off of our little example here, what should I do first? It's very similar to kind of what we did before. Starts with a doc and with a mint. Because we're traversing the DOM to kind of grab a div. What should we do there to get this?
Document.getElement by ID.
And what's the ID?
Wait, is line 3?
No, we want to get line 3, but what we want to do first is get the parent node, get the parent element. So
Okay, so hold that.
yeah, hold that. You meant dot get element by ID. Hold that. Okay. So we got this. Nothing's happened just yet, but what should we do next to actually change that HTML? We should call a function that we just learned.
innerHTML.
Let's take a look. And what I always like to do is, as a sanity check, I always love console logging stuff so you kind of know where you are. So we know if we did this right, we'd actually see the HTML element of H2. Sign me up. So go work. So now,
Wait, so if you only wanted to change what the H2 said inside of the H2, then you would put title inside the parentheses?
yeah, so we can actually run something similar to what we did over here, where we actually just said, hey, get innerText. So if we wanted to change the innerText there, yeah. But if we want to change the whole HTML element that's inside of a div, it's smarter to kind of like grab its parent, change everything that's inside of there.
Okay.
So, again, it has to be in like a string because we're programming, we're not like going all loosey goosey out here. So if I were to say something like I'm going to turn this into H1 out here. H1, and I'm gonna be like, as you can see, I've changed our title based off of get inner HTML to H1 your. So something interesting that happened, as you can see, is this is now black. Why do you think that is? All right, here's a hypothesis here. If we do something like H2, it's all white. Why do you think that is?
Is it because you set like a preset color for each like H1, H2 for like so for example for H1 it's by default black, for like H2 is default white.
Okay, you're close. So it's black because the default is black, but what happened in our CSS here. So, you didn't really like we didn't go over the CSS piece yet because I wanted to kind of be like, you design a form at some point one day. But if we take a look here, our form actually has for H2, as you can see, actually has the color of FFF, which is basically saying like, this is white. So a cool way for us to solve that, well, we actually have our little black yurt here. We can go into our CSS real quick. We can basically do the same thing we had for our sign up and be like, hey, this is in sign up H1. Put those brackets out there. I'm actually don't care about any of those margin stuff, but what I want to do is set this color to pound FFF colon. So if we take a look at that, bam, it's now white. The reason why it was black was you were right. It's by default, like, our HTML text is black, but in our CSS, we've actually changed the color to white. So now that we've added this new CSS rule to basically follow our H1, our H3, H4, so on and so forth, we've actually now have the color of white, which actually matches everything here. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, let me know what's unclear about it.
Sorry, I was shaking my head. Yes, it makes sense.
Oh yeah. I can't see any of y'all right now. I'm because I have it on share mode. Basically, does this whole concept we did on line 1 of changing inner HTML with an H1, does that make sense as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the idea is like you can kind of manipulate the DOM, you can do all these cool things with it, but also what's cool is you can wrap these little one-liners that we've done into functions, and those functions can be put into callback functions. So basically, based off of a button press, you can change your HTML to change something to your all the way to have the whole screen shake or something like that. Lewis, yeah, you want to chime in?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, don't be afraid to message us if you don't want to say it in like front of the whole class or everything.
Yeah.
Because, like, trust me, when you go through this and if you don't start understanding this early, you're going to get lost later. Like, these are very crucial steps to understanding like how the rest of like each lesson is backed off the other. So getting confused now is just gonna affect you later. So like no questions a dumb question. Feel free to like message us at any time.
Yeah. Thanks, Luis. And again, yeah, the idea is like, I won't judge you for asking a dumb question, but if you really just want to just like, feel free to put it in the chat. Also, one of the TAs will answer that way. But if you have a question that you want to kind of like chime out, like reach out to the TAs or I as well on Slack. But also, yeah, like during the class, feel free to just kind of ping somebody while I'm doing the lecture, and like they'll kind of clear those pieces up. So yeah, these are important, and also try to think of them as fun. You get to like manipulate your page based off of what you want. Like I keep putting yurts in there because I'll be in the Bronx, but you put chopped cheese in there if you live in Harlem or something like that. You can kind of change the contents of your div, change the contents of your whole HTML by doing these things. And what that kind of equates to in prime time is something like this. So if was it okay, great. I was like, yo, why can I never find this? Okay, so a little last class, I kind of showed you all this little form here. As you can see, as you saw before, we've added HTML and removed HTML But if you do that and kind of wrap it within like, something like an event handler or a button click, you can do something like this where you press a button and then it adds a whole another form on your HTML structure. So what I did here was like based off of this button click, I had an event listener that said like, yo, add another label of model, add another input box for that model, add another label called serial number, add another field that basically references that serial number. And if I keep pressing this, I'll add another one, I'll add another one. And let's say I don't have that many products, I'll remove one, I can remove another one, I can remove another one. So it's not just simply, just little, what is it? It's not just simply a little H3 hello world smaller that you can add. You can add a whole extra element to your form. You can add a whole nother element to your website by doing these things like inner HTML or adding to it or something else. Okay. So it's not lunchtime, but it's quiz time. So I actually made a little quiz for you guys with Notebook LM, so y'all can so what we're gonna do is we're gonna play this little game where I basically created a 12 questions based off of what we learned with higher order functions in the DOM. And what I want y'all to do is like I'll kind of share the question. Whoever wants to answer it, like come off of mute, say whether you think it's A, B, or C, and we'll see if that's right. If you answer right, I recommend waiting for like have someone else speak next. So, we all kind of answer, but we have 12 questions. Let's try to get through all of them and then I'll show you all the next labs, okay? So, first things first, which characteristic of JavaScript allows the creation of higher order functions? All right, John, and feel free to just come off of mute if you wanna. You don't need to raise your hand.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want everyone to like go for it. All right. I think it's B.
B. Functions
Yes.
are treated as first-class functions. Let's hit. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, remember, treating functions as first-class citizens allow them to be assigned as variables. You assign those variables as arguments, and they can be returned as values. So the idea is you can take a function, assign it as a variable, pass it in a callback. It can turn into your callback then. Then basically you can run all of these cool functions and logic based off of that. So yeah, great work. All right, so let's go to the next one. All right. What is the definition? What's the defining behavior of a callback function? See, and this is why I was like, don't even raise your hand. Everybody's too afraid to answer. Go ahead.
It's A.
I didn't hear you, Jackie. Say it again.
It's A. It passes an
Okay.
argument to another function to be executed later.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I was trying to make a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire reference. I don't know if y'all get it. That's right. So the essence of a callback is it really delegating to an outer function, which, invokes it in a specific routine. So yeah, it's that outer function, basically it gets passed into that outer function. Then you can invoke that callback argument, which is a function saved as an argument. Saved as a variable inside of that outer function. So yeah, great work. All right, so next one. Which iterative method is specifically designed to transform each element into a new array with the same length?
B, map.
Okay, bmap. And you're absolutely right. So remember, for each just loops through the array without making any, it does not manipulate the original array, and it does not return a new array. So the idea is you kind of mess around with the array looping through it, but if you needed a new array, you would use map. Basically, based off of your callback function in the map function, it would actually give you a new array with the mutated values, but without affecting the actual original array. Good work. All right. In the reduce method, what are the two mandatory parameters of a callback function represented there? So remember, we're like reducing something. So the idea is like we would need one thing and then the other thing.
Are you saying the answer is A?
Is that your final answer?
I'm saying D.
Is that your final answer? I would,
Yes.
here's my hint. It's either A or D.
D. I think D.
Okay. Yes. So these parameters are often called previous and next. So it allows the function to combine the results of the prior step to, the next step, and then just kind of condensing that together. So the reason why it's not A is reduce focuses on a single accumulated result rather than passing it around. That's not really the case. It's really just kind of, you have the old thing, you have the new thing, you're trying to check to see what's, like what the difference is to kind of reduce it down. The best way to think about that is like, you have a array of numbers and you're trying to kind of like maybe add them all together. Maybe you're trying to subtract them all or multiply them all, but it'll all really kind of be reduced down to like one thing. Good work, both. And good work on just basically being like, even if your selection is wrong, that's completely fine, because now you can kind of be like, okay, like you can correct my line of thinking here. So good work there. All right, so how does the rest operator function you like get used in function parameters? So remember, the rest operator is kind of like those three dots that kind of spread out your array based off of like what you need there. So feel free to chime in.
Is it A?
All right. Is it? Bam. Yes. So again, remember that rest operator is kind of like it's taking like either your array like object, like from your DOM get elements by tag name, or get elements by class name, which is kind of a list of items, but it's not really an array. And you can kind of like spread that into a variable that is an array. So you can kind of like iterate, map over it, do all the stuff that you can do in JavaScript. But the thing is, you can also do that with other arrays too. So I think I had this example where we took two arrays and put them together in one array by just spreading one array, comma, the other array. We can kind of do all those cool things with this. So yeah, great work. We're making record progress here. So why is array with the value of that preferred over type of when checking if a variable is an array in JavaScript?
I think
So this is an interesting
Is it
one. Because,
D?
like, you said D?
Yeah.
Final answer?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So remember, when you really, since like, the descendant of like an array in JavaScript is an object, object prototype, that type of will basically say like, yeah, you're still an object. But the array is array will be like, it kind of under the hood understands that like, yo, I know you're basically an object prototype, but what I'm really asking you is, are you like a JavaScript array? And you can use this for elements inside of like, your DOMs and stuff like that. So you get an array from a DOM query selector, and you want to check to see if that's an array. You want to, before you iterate over it, you map over it. This kind of helps you understand like, hey, this is an array I can do the JavaScript array methods on. So yeah, great work. One thing I do want to point out, I remember when I was like doing some DOM manipulation stuff when I was like learning JavaScript like y'all were. I was like debugging for like hours trying to iterate over this like list of items on my page, my DOM page, and I had no idea about array is array then. So I was just over here being like, why the hell is this not working? Come on, H, you know this, like, and basically this was the issue that I was facing here. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm not able to iterate over a list of DOM node elements. It needs to be converted, or it needs to be turned into an array that JavaScript can interpret, or I need to traverse it a different way or handle it a different way using next child, so on and so forth. So yeah, this is why we do that. All right. In the document object model, the DOM tree structure, which of the following rules regarding parent-child relationships are true? Is true. One of them. And a little visual so y'all can kind of remember the heck the structure be looking like. Bam. So remember, this is our DOM little structure here. Remember, oh crap, I'm giving you the answers. All right. But basically, remember that structure of the DOM there.
What is C?
What is C? C for 500 points. Yes, you're absolutely right. So if we take a look at this over here, remember, a node can have 0 or 1 parent. So if you take a look at the body over here, it has no parent because it's like basically the top level node. But every other thing really kind of inherits from something. So like H1 parent is body. This P tag here, parent is body. The text A and text here, parent is P. This P over here is the parent of body. Body is out here basically just the elder grandma just being like, I produced all of the children nodes. Good work. All right. We're up to 8, so we're almost out of here. So basically, which DOM selector method allows you to find nodes using the standard like CSS selector, or like basically using the selector like this, or item.firstChild. So one thing I want to point out is it's definitely not going to be get element by ID. As you saw, we were getting elements by ID, not its CSS selector. So we can completely disqualify B.
A.
Bam. You're right. So remember, query selector is this highly flexible. It's highly flexible because it utilizes like the same kind of selector engine used for CSS identifiers. So you can be like, yo, CSS this, da 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 da. Actually, when I was damn, it's probably not gonna be able to find this in time, but oh yes. Form lesson, yes, beautiful. We take a look at the CSS that I set up here. It's kind of similar to that kind of setup structure where I was like, yo, form, pound, sign up, basically form, ID of sign up. I'm getting those selectors from the CSS selectors like that. So I can actually use that for styling, but also, yeah, use it for like grabbing those elements there. So great work. Let's go down here. 9. Okay, so you have retrieved a collection of elements using get element by tag name. You got all the divs there, and you can't immediately use the map on this collection. What the dealio? The hint is I was just talking about how I was having trouble with that when I was first learning it when I was in the boot camp as well. So this is a common thing. Why can't you immediately use map on this collection?
Is it C?
Mm. Because remember, this collection is not an array. It looks like an array, it walks like an array, talks like an array, but it's not an array. So it's an array-like collection. It's based off of the DOM HTML collection, which is cool because basically if things ever change, it'll actually update dynamically. But when you want to do JavaScript on that, you actually have to turn it into an array, like basically using the spread operator and putting that into an array so you can kind of do your map, run your map and stuff like that on there. Again, when you turn it into an array, it loses its connection to the dynamic structure of the DOM. But the idea is you use that, manipulate something in the DOM, but then like if you ever need to do something again, you can always reference that collection again, not the map output. So yeah, good work. So it's a common quick hack for removing a DOM node if the parent is not directly known. So the hint here is like, remember, every node knows about its other nodes.
So, since you said the hint, I think it's A.
I'm gonna stop giving y'all hints out here. Good work. But because basically, remember, everything's connected. Yeah, the idea is you can kind of go in, reference the parent node, and tell the parent to remove the kid. You know, like it's if y'all seen season 1 of Invincible out here, you know. Think, Mark, think. Good job. All right, when using an event listener, you know, you have your type, you have your callback. What does the type argument represent?
C.
C? You're absolutely right. Remember, it's the types that we actually are going to use, like such as click, scroll, hover. These are the types that like the event we're actually going to be listening to in order to call that callback on. Good work. All right, so which property do we use to retrieve the current text entered by the user into like a text input field? So remember that whole reference of like, you know, like, hey, put the value of Hesvasio.com. But
C.
basically,
C.
yeah, I gotta shut up next time. Good work. Basically, yes, you can get the value attributed from the form to actually like get that user input there. You can do that based off of after the user selects a submit button, and basically grab the data that you need to actually like run your logic there. So yeah, great work. 12 out of 12. Y'all are killing it. So great work there. We are about to hit 8 o'clock, so we're gonna go. The rest of the class is gonna be labs. So what I want to show y'all is the labs that I will be assigning to y'all. We're gonna work together in groups to finish up as much of the labs as we can. And we will again work on some of these for like on Saturday. So the first one, it's another JavaScript lab. It's called Pig Latin. The idea is, the background is, Pig Latin was made up children's language intended to be confusing. It kind of like sets up these rules to kind of like encode a message. Basically, rule one is the vowel sound is you add an a to an a to the vowel sound. So like ixnay on the habze or something like that. And the other one is actually a constant sound. You move to the end of the word and then you add an A on that. So the idea is if you take a look at some of the examples here, apple will turn into this. It's funny. I used to be able to do this really well as a kid, and now I'm just like iffy J, for Jiffy and stuff like that. Again, maybe it's like tricks are for kids. The reason why we see them as little balls now is we're not kids anymore, but maybe it's just a little harder to kind of do now that because it was like something that was made up, kid language here. But yeah, basically you'll write your logic again inside of the lib folder. You will put your solution in there, and the spec file will have the tests that we will be testing for. And honestly, you follow the instructions where first npm install, grab the dependencies, you run npm test to actually see the tests and get them passing to based off of the rule set we have here. The next one is actually JS array methods, New York City edition. The idea here is you're going to learn how to use the for each, map, and reduce based off of data that you have within, well, you're actually going to do a lot more than that, but basically based off of the data you have from this little lab here. So like what I did was I have this little data.js here where you reference some of the data that is based off of like the New York structure here. You got the name of the bodega here, what borough is in, how much a bacon, egg, and cheese costs there. Of course, Brooklyn would be $5.50, man. But does it have a cat? Is it open 24 hours? Kind of go through there. And of course, the Bronx got it for $4.50 because we're all broken here apparently. But we have like an array for our bodegas. We also have an array for subway lines here, and that will be for another part of the lab. And we have an array for the boroughs where we can kind of see the population. So here's something interesting that I want to point out to you guys is, again, in an array, we can actually have an array filled with objects. So what's kind of cool about this is you're going to actually learn how to traverse an array based off of like, you're going to have to learn how to traverse an array as well as traverse an object when you're iterating through that array. So what are you doing here? There we go, read me. You'll be doing a callback on, let me see. Yeah. First, of course, you're going to fork the lab. You're going to open JS, index.js. This is actually where you'll be writing the logic this time around. And then this, it changed this up a little bit so you can actually, so it's a little different for testing. You'll actually, run the npm install as usual. You will run npm test to check out those tests. The tests are going to look a little bit different. It's actually going to, I'd like to say it's a bit more detailed. So you're actually going to see how like it'll look a little bit more detailed. So I hope that will help you guys out. But it's a bit verbose. You're going to have to do a callback. So you're going to have to invoke a callback twice. You're gonna have to format each borough, each bodega as the name of the borough, comma, its actual where it's from, which borough it is. You're actually gonna do a for each for the number of subway lines listed there. You're gonna actually map and pull out just the bodega names from that list, the array there. You're actually going to do another map to get the density field for each borough. You know, you saw that there was a population for each borough, and you're actually going to do a reduce to get the total number of stations across all lines. You're also going to do a reduce to group boroughs, bodegas through boroughs. And you're actually going to chain them on to do something different, which is you're gonna learn something new, which is filter. I didn't teach y'all filter, so the idea is, you know, like you have the references for filter. You're gonna have to learn. You're gonna have to Google it. Google it. Don't chat GPT it. Google it. Understand it, and then try to use it in here. So you're gonna use filter, map, and then reduce to get the average bacon, egg, and cheese price across all of the bodegas that are open 24 hours. A lot of New York City array traversal, but by the end of this, you're gonna be able to like traverse an array like you're traversing the subway lines. And then one more lab. DOM. So DOM manipulation. So basically everything we just learned, we're gonna stay true to the Fast and Furious jokes out here. So the idea is what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna actually find one element by an ID. You are gonna find as many CSS selectors as you can using the query selector. You can convert a node. You are gonna change visible text, kind of like what we did in the today. You're gonna replace the markup. All of these are going to be each things you'll do. You're going to actually create a new element, like a new list of items. You're going to append items. You're going to remove child elements and stuff like that. You're going to add an event listener, like a click, see how that works. You're actually going to grab the value of something. You're going to actually stop the page from reloading. I'm forcing you to actually Google this so you can get into a habit of being like, oh, I don't know that. Let me go and Google that. And then also, you know, you're gonna just you're gonna have like a button data set members for the DOM because you know this is all Fast and Furious themed. So again, you're gonna fork the lab, you're gonna npm run install, you're gonna run the server so you can actually see the things in action. But then on a separate terminal, I'd recommend on a separate terminal, you run the tests. You can actually also run this command called test watch. So as you're changing the stuff in the page, you can actually see the page change, but you can also see that your tests are either changing based off of what you've done past, so instead of like running tests every 5 seconds, you can just have it watch, and then the watch will actually be like, oh, your test is passing on this one now. Your test is failing on this one though, you know, and you don't have to kind of run tests every 5 seconds. So I made it a little bit more convenient for y'all, but the idea is it will kind of solidify what you've learned. So here are some references so you can actually see how to kind of use the DOM elements that we've just been talking about. But that's the lab. So I'm gonna break y'all into groups. Work through it as much as you can for now, and then basically we'll finish the rest of it on Saturday. Saturday also will have kind of like that making your portfolio page, but for now, get all of this together and we do the portfolio page, okay? All right. It's group o'clock. Favorite, I know it's your favorite part of the lab class, you know. All right. We're again, TAs are gonna be in, like, and I are gonna be here. Chime in if you have a question. We'll try to check in on you. We only have like about 10, like 10 minutes really, but I'll bring y'all back in around 8:26, 8:27 to just say goodbye. All right. See you guys.
Hess, you're going to that event on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm trying, man. Because I gotta teach and then I gotta go to the event. I'm like, yo, I'm dying over here. Dying.
Helps out a lot.
I'm about to say, yo, Louis, say that for the recording now that we're we're back to recording.
Sure. Like to avoid paying for a lot of school debt and like school in general, there's many schools that have research programs, especially if you're in CS. You can do a bunch of research in different types of researches. One, it'll help you understand what type of like industry you actually want to do, and it'll also tell you what you don't like, which is super important in CS because you realize you can do a bunch of things, but then you realize you don't like a lot of things. So it's better to find out fast what you don't like and then figure out what you like later.
Exactamente. I hope the lesson today was helpful. I hope it kind of helped y'all kind of get an understanding of how HTML, CSS, JavaScript kind of all works together to make an interactive page. On Saturday, y'all will be kind of bringing this all together to make your own page, make it great, make it shine, make it amazing. And yeah, it's 8:31. So I will see y'all on the next Bat channel. See you on the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z on Saturday.
Excuse me.
Oh yeah, man.
I know where to find the slides, but not the videos. The one
Oh
that
yeah,
you
so
recorded every
remember
Zoom.
all the videos, and I'll quickly put that on there. All the videos are on YouTube. I will share the link again, but I am uploading them as fast as possible. Unfortunately, I am full-time job be getting me out here, but basically here is the playlist for them. So it's a playlist that has all of them. And what we'll actually be doing is adding more as like the lessons are recorded. So here it is on, here it is on here. Share. Again, I'll put this on Slack, but every time we have a class, I'll update this playlist with all of the lessons that we've gone over. But just to kind of like make this a little easier, I'm gonna put that in here for you guys. That in here for you guys here. Next cohort. I'll even put that in here. Bam. All right, so the idea is it's updated constantly. We have all of the lessons on there because the idea is if they are on Zoom, they will disappear at some point in life. Shouldn't have to deal with that. You should be able to kind of always see your lessons and labs. It's kind of the reason why I put our labs on GitHub. I put our lesson, the lessons and slides is a repo on GitHub. The actual lab is actually going to be on YouTube. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, it looks like Jackie over there is like hacking the matrix. I love your setup over there, man. Any other questions before we hop? Okay. See y'all later. Y'all can get out of here. See you on Saturday.
See you on
Okay,
Saturday.
everyone,
Thank you
take
for
care.
today.
Bye, Professor.
Thank you.
See you on Saturday at the event, Hess.
See you all.